The silence of deep space was comforting to Captain Elena Ramirez. She sat in her command chair aboard the Horizon, letting the gentle hum of the ship's systems calm her nerves. But the stillness didn't last. An alert flashed across her console, accompanied by an automated voice. Distress signal detected. Elena's sharp eyes flicked to the screen. A remote human outpost on the edge of the galaxy was sending out a distress call. Patch it through, she ordered. Her first officer, Lieutenant Carter, complied, his fingers dancing across the controls. The message crackled into the room, jagged, broken words cutting through the static. They're coming, we can't hold them off. What do you think, Captain? Carter's voice was steady, but the concern in his eyes betrayed him. He was younger, eager to prove himself, but still learning how to mask his emotions in the face of the unknown. Elena frowned, her mind racing. The outpost was small, located in a sector rarely patrolled. It should have been safe from any known threats. She stood and paced, the soft thud of her boots the only sound. We're closest to the sector, she murmured, more to herself than to anyone else. We can't ignore this. Dr. Megan Singh, the ship's science officer, chimed in from her station. No life signs detected from the surface, Captain, she said, her voice laced with the calm detachment of someone used to analyzing data, not lives. Whatever happened, it was quick. That's what worries me, Elena replied. She turned to her crew. Set course for the outpost. We need answers. The Horizon surged into motion, its engines cutting through the blackness like a knife. The tension in the bridge was palpable. The crew worked quietly, each person lost in their thoughts about the unknown threat awaiting them. As they neared the outpost, the devastation became clear. The once active station was in ruins, scorched walls, gaping holes where structures had been torn apart. But there were no bodies, no debris. It was as if whatever attacked left nothing behind. This doesn't make sense, Carter muttered, scanning the area. No signs of a battle, no remains, it's just gone. Stay sharp, Elena warned, eyes fixed on the screen. We don't know what we're dealing with. Dr. Singh's brow furrowed as she examined the readings. Captain, I'm detecting strange energy signatures across the surface. Nothing I can identify, but it's old. Very old. An ancient weapon? Elena wondered aloud. Or something worse? Carter's fingers hovered over the console. Do we send a team down? Elena hesitated. She was responsible for every life on this ship, and the unknown loomed like a shadow over her decision. But turning back now meant leaving questions unanswered, and she wasn't one to shy away from danger. We go, she said at last. Prepare the shuttle. As the crew moved into action, Elena stood still for a moment, staring out into the void beyond. Her instincts told her they were on the edge of something far bigger than an isolated attack. Something ancient. Something deadly. The shuttle prepared to launch, the crew unaware of the dark force watching from the depths of the ruined outpost, waiting for their arrival. The Horizon shuttle broke through the atmosphere of the ruined outpost, its hull glowing red from the friction. Inside, Captain Elena Ramirez, Lieutenant Carter, and Dr. Megan Singh sat in tense silence. The hum of the engines and the rhythmic ticking of their breathing apparatuses were the only sounds, amplifying the weight of the unknown. We're nearing the surface, Carter reported, checking the readouts. Still no signs of life. Elena's hands gripped the armrests of her seat. Stay alert. Whatever hit this place could still be out there. The shuttle hovered over the decimated remains of the outpost. Blackened steel beams jutted out from the ground like broken teeth, and ash covered everything, giving the landscape a desolate, almost otherworldly feel. Despite the destruction, there was no obvious evidence of an explosion or firefight, no craters, no debris scattered as one might expect from an attack. Carter frowned, his gaze fixed on the window. It's too clean. There's no wreckage, no bodies. What could do this? Dr. Singh, tapping on her portable scanner, spoke up. The energy signatures I detected earlier, they're stronger here. But it's still off. It's like they're not from any technology we've ever seen. It's almost organic. Elena's heart pounded harder. Organic energy? That didn't make sense. Is it safe to breathe down there? Air's fine, Singh said, her brow furrowing. But we need to keep our suits on. I can't identify the particles in the atmosphere. Something's contaminating it. As the shuttle landed with a soft thud, Elena unfastened her harness and stood. All right, gear up. We're going in. Stay close, no heroics. The door hissed open, and a gust of dry, acrid wind swept inside, carrying the faint smell of burning metal and decay. The ground crunched beneath their boots as they stepped out into the wasteland. The stillness was unsettling. Not even the usual buzz of insects, or the distant rumble of wind could be heard. This place is wrong, Carter muttered, his hand instinctively hovering over his sidearm. Feels like we're being watched. Elena nodded, her instincts screaming at her to turn back. But they had a job to do. Stay focused. Dr. Singh, keep scanning. I want to know what caused this. They moved cautiously through the wreckage, their footsteps echoing unnaturally in the eerie silence. The remains of the outpost loomed around them, but still no sign of a struggle, or what had attacked. Just emptiness. Singh suddenly stopped, her scanner beeping frantically. Captain, I'm picking up something, ahead. It's faint, but it's moving. Elena's pulse quickened. How far? About 50 meters. Carter drew his weapon, eyes scanning the barren horizon. I don't like this. Neither do I, Elena admitted. But we need answers. She activated her comm. Shuttle, keep an eye on our position. Be ready to extract us at a moment's notice. They pressed forward, the tension mounting with every step. The faint energy signal grew stronger as they neared what remained of the outpost's central building, now a half-collapsed husk. Jagged metal shards littered the ground, casting long shadows in the fading light of the distant sun. The air felt thicker here, as though the very atmosphere were pressing down on them. Elena raised her hand, signaling them to stop. Hold! The faint beeping of Singh's scanner was now the only sound in the oppressive quiet. Carter scanned the area with his eyes, but nothing moved. Whatever it is, it's close. Suddenly, the ground beneath them shuddered, a low rumble reverberating through the earth. Carter's eyes widened. What the hell was that? Before anyone could respond, a deafening crack split the air, and the ground opened beneath them. Elena barely had time to shout before they were plunged into darkness, tumbling through a tunnel of jagged stone and metal. The descent was short but violent, ending with a hard thud as they hit solid ground. Elena groaned, pulling herself to her feet. The air down here was even thicker, and her suit's HUD flashed warnings of unknown particles flooding the area. She looked around. Carter and Singh were nearby, dazed but alive. We've fallen into something, Singh gasped, clutching her scanner. And whatever's down here, it's old. Elena's heart raced as her flashlight flickered on, revealing strange, ancient markings carved into the stone walls. Stay sharp. We're not alone down here. The darkness ahead seemed to pulse, as if the shadows themselves were alive and waiting. Elena's pulse hammered in her ears as she swept her flashlight across the chamber, the beam cutting through the thick, dust-laden air. The walls loomed around them, covered in intricate carvings that seemed almost alive in the flickering light. Strange symbols spiraled across the stone, alien yet oddly familiar, like something just beyond the edge of recognition. Carter coughed, groaning as he pushed himself up from the ground. Is everyone in one piece? Barely, Elena muttered, her voice tight. Her head throbbed from the fall, but she forced herself to stay alert. Dr. Singh, are you all right? Singh nodded, though her face was pale behind the visor of her helmet. She scanned the surroundings with a mix of awe and fear, her handheld device emitting a constant stream of beeps. I don't understand. These markings are ancient. Whatever this place is, it predates anything we've encountered. The energy readings down here are off the charts. Energy? You mean those weird pulses you picked up? Carter asked, unease creeping into his voice. Yes, Singh replied, her eyes wide. And they're getting stronger the deeper we go. This place is active. Elena's gut twisted. Active how? Singh hesitated, then shook her head. I'm not sure. But it's like the very ground beneath us is alive with energy. Something is stirring. Before Elena could respond, a low hum filled the air, vibrating through the stone floor. It was faint at first, almost imperceptible, but it quickly grew into a throbbing, rhythmic pulse that seemed to resonate with the strange carvings on the walls. The symbols began to glow, their soft luminescence spreading across the chamber like veins of light. Carter swore under his breath, stepping back instinctively. What the hell is that? I don't know, Elena said, her voice barely above a whisper. Every instinct told her to run, to get the hell out of there, but something deeper kept her rooted in place. It was as if the glowing symbols were drawing her in, compelling her to stay. Singh crouched beside one of the walls, her gloved fingers tracing the carvings. These symbols, they're not just decorative. They're part of the system. This is a control room, or something like it. The energy flow, the pulses, it's all connected to this place. Elena's stomach churned. Are you saying this was designed? That something built all of this? Singh stood, her face shadowed with dread. Not something. Someone. The chamber shuddered again, this time with greater force. Loose stones tumbled from the ceiling, and the floor beneath them cracked with an ominous rumble. Elena's hand flew to her communicator. Horizon, we need an immediate evac. We're underground and... Her voice trailed off as static crackled through the comms. No response. She tried again, but the interference only grew louder. We're cut off, she said, gritting her teeth. Looks like we're on our own for now. Carter cursed under his breath. Great. Just great. Stuck in an ancient death trap with glowing walls and no backup. Elena shot him a sharp glance. Focus. We need to figure out what we're dealing with. Before she could continue, a deafening crack echoed through the chamber. The ground beneath their feet split open, and from the fissure rose a massive, undulating form, black as night, its surface slick and shifting like liquid shadow. It towered over them, featureless and yet radiating a presence that made Elena's skin crawl. What the? Carter's voice caught in his throat as he stumbled backward, weapon drawn. Singh's scanner beeped furiously as she backed away, her eyes wide with terror. That's not possible. It's not alive. Elena stood frozen, her mind racing to make sense of the impossible creature looming before them. It had no eyes, no mouth, no discernible features, yet she could feel its awareness, its intelligence. It was watching them, studying them. Suddenly the creature moved, its form rippling as it descended toward the ground, spreading out like a black tide. Elena's heart pounded as she realized what it was doing. It was surrounding them, cutting off any chance of escape. We need to move, she shouted, grabbing Singh and Carter by their arms. Now! They sprinted toward the far side of the chamber, the creature's inky mass surging after them like a living shadow. The air grew colder, heavier with each step, as if the very atmosphere was thickening, pressing down on them. Elena's breath came in ragged gasps as she reached the far wall, desperately searching for an exit. Her flashlight flickered, casting erratic beams across the stone. There, just beyond a cluster of glowing symbols, was a narrow passageway, barely wide enough to squeeze through. This way, she called, motioning for the others. Carter dove in first, followed by Singh, who was muttering to herself in frantic disbelief. Elena was the last to slip through, the black mass of the creature mere inches from her boots. As she pulled herself into the narrow passage, she could feel the creature's presence on the other side, pressing against the walls, searching for a way in. Panting, she turned to Carter and Singh. We need to keep moving. Whatever that thing is, it's not going to stop. Singh nodded, still clutching her scanner. We've disturbed something ancient, and it wants us gone. Elena's jaw tightened. Then we need to find a way out before it gets what it wants. The passageway was suffocatingly narrow, the stone walls scraping against Elena's shoulders as she led the way forward. The air was thick, laden with the scent of damp earth and something else, something metallic, like the scent of blood lingering in the air. Behind her, Carter's breathing was harsh and uneven, his nerves barely under control. Singh, who followed him, had gone quiet, too quiet for Elena's liking. The scanner she clutched in her hands emitted a series of irregular beeps, picking up whatever mysterious energy still pulsed through the ancient structure. "How far do you think this goes?" Carter muttered, his voice barely a whisper. His usual bravado had vanished, replaced by the raw fear of the unknown. "No idea," Elena replied, keeping her voice steady despite the dread gnawing at her insides. "But it's our only way out." They pressed forward, the passage growing darker and narrower the deeper they went. Every step felt like they were descending further into the heart of something ancient and malevolent, a place untouched by time and forgotten by the galaxy. The only sound was the scuff of their boots on the stone floor, the hiss of their breath, and the ever-present hum of the energy beneath them. It was as though the walls themselves were alive, watching, waiting. Finally, the passage widened into another chamber, this one smaller than the previous, but no less imposing. The ceiling arched high above them, and at its center stood an ominous stone altar, covered in the same glowing symbols as the walls. Elena's gut twisted. The sight of the altar, with its ancient carvings, filled her with a sense of profound unease. It was too deliberate, too purposeful, like a forgotten monument to something best left undisturbed. This doesn't feel right," Singh whispered, her voice trembling. She approached the altar cautiously, her scanner flashing red with warning. "The energy here, it's stronger. This is the source." Elena's grip tightened on her rifle. "The source of what?" Singh swallowed hard, glancing at the scanner. "Of everything. The pulses, the interference, and whatever that thing was that chased us. It's all coming from here." Carter cursed under his breath. "We need to destroy it. Whatever's powering this nightmare, we take it out and get out of here." "I don't think it's that simple," Singh said softly, her eyes never leaving the altar. "This isn't just some old tech. It's alive." Elena's stomach dropped. "Alive?" Singh nodded, her face pale. "It's not just a machine. It's more than that. It's sentient." Before Elena could process that revelation, a deep rumble echoed through the chamber, the ground shaking beneath their feet. The symbols on the altar flared with light, and from the shadows emerged a figure, a towering silhouette, its form humanoid but unmistakably alien. Its eyes burned with an unnatural glow, locking onto them with an intelligence that sent a chill down Elena's spine. The creature stepped forward, its movements fluid and unnervingly graceful. It spoke, though not in any language they could understand. The words reverberated through the chamber like the hum of machinery, resonating deep within Elena's bones. What is it saying?" Carter stammered, his grip tightening on his weapon. Singh shook her head, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't know. But I think it's warning us." The alien figure raised one hand, and suddenly the entire chamber was filled with a blinding light. Elena instinctively shielded her eyes, her heart pounding in her chest as the overwhelming energy surged around them. When the light dimmed, the creature was gone, but in its place, the chamber had transformed. The walls now thrummed with raw power, the symbols glowing with an intensity that made the air crackle. The altar at the center pulsed with a heartbeat-like rhythm, its energy growing stronger by the second. Elena's blood ran cold. "We need to get out of here. Now." But before they could move, the ground beneath the altar cracked open, revealing a swirling vortex of black energy, a tear in reality itself. The pull of the vortex was immediate, like a black hole dragging everything toward it. "Move! Now!" Elena shouted, her voice laced with urgency as she grabbed Singh by the arm, pulling her back from the altar's edge. Carter was already moving, his eyes wide with fear as the force of the vortex threatened to pull them in. The air around them swirled violently, debris lifting off the ground and being sucked into the gaping maw of the vortex. "Come on!" Elena urged, pushing Singh and Carter toward the passage they had come through. But just as they reached the entrance, a deafening roar filled the chamber. The creature had returned, its form materializing from the vortex itself, more menacing than before. It reached out with tendrils of energy, the raw power surging toward them like a tidal wave. "We can't fight that," Carter yelled, panic in his voice. We don't need to fight it, Elena shouted back. We just need to survive. With every ounce of strength she had left, Elena led them through the passage, the sound of the vortex and the creature's howls echoing behind them. The walls trembled as the ancient structure began to collapse, the very fabric of the place unraveling under the force of the energy they had unleashed. They ran, faster than they ever had before, their breaths ragged and hearts pounding. Behind them, the passage crumbled, the walls caving in as the vortex consumed everything in its path. Finally, they burst into the open air, the cold wind biting at their faces as they stumbled out of the underground ruin. The ground trembled beneath them, and in the distance, the entrance to the ruins collapsed entirely, sealing the horrors within. Panting, Elena collapsed to her knees, her body trembling with exhaustion. Carter and Singh stood beside her, their faces pale but alive. We made it, Carter said, breathless. Barely. Elena looked back at the ruined entrance, her heart still pounding. But what did we unleash?